What's going on, Ambitious Vets? Welcome to episode number 37 of the Ambitious Vet Show with 20-year Army veteran, turned podcaster, speaker, and mentor, Jeffrey Lodick. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. Now guys, we are here to dive into the trenches with today's top-performing military veterans that were once warrior-made, but are now passion-driven. Now guys, as they share their stories, their failures, and their journeys of what it took, we just hope this unlocks your secret formula to living a more impactful, meaningful, and purposeful life out of the uniform. All right, what's going on, veterans? So if you're listening to this, you're telling me that pretty much that you're ready for more. You're ready for the next step into the next elevation of impact, of fulfillment, or satisfaction inside of your life. See, if you're listening to this, veteran, you know that freedom out of the uniform isn't free just as much as it wasn't free when you were serving. What does that mean? Well, if you're an ambitious vet, it means you got to get out and sacrifice. You got to get back into the beginner's mindset and figure out how to take those intangibles from your military experience and learn how to execute and continue to set the standard out into the civilian sector and market yourself in a very impactful way. Because one thing I know for damn sure is that you are impactful. If you're listening to this, you are impactful. And you've got intangibles that a lot of civilians don't have that you can get done faster. Guys, please take my personal invitation to go over to the Ambitious Vet Tribe on Facebook, where we have over 500 plus ambitious vets in the trenches, right? Taking massive action out in the civilian world. And we're sharing weekly lives either with myself or other subject matter experts that we're just literally giving you guys real-time engagement with people out there killing it out of the uniform and sharing tips, tricks, and strategies to where you guys can implement immediately and start making the impact that you're committed to. Guys, we're just a stand inside that tribe that you get the networking done, get the wisdom to narrow the time frames to get shit done quicker, get the advice, and also always the support and the accountability that's needed to get shit done. Really, if you haven't already got it, it's a group of veterans that are actually in the trenches taking action, are not entitled, and ultimately they're just focusing on how do I execute my next mission faster. If you're an ambitious vet, you're not satisfied, you're sick of the same old routine, and you want to figure out how to elevate your life, guys, get over to the Ambitious Vet Tribe and we'll see you there. All right, Ambitious Vets, we're about to dive into the trenches with Jeffrey Lodick. But before we do that, episode number 37 is going to be brought to you by Audible, guys. Go and discover what millions already have. If there's one thing that I learned 5.5 years ago when I was getting off that wrestling mat and only owning a school desk to my name and overcoming 2 suicide attempts because I'm a Marine and I just did it the wrong way, I realized that I needed to actually start discovering what it took to become known in something. Guys, we live in a microwave age, right? Which I think we all can kind of agree with that. And what comes with that is we don't have time to read. Sometimes we feel like it's boring, right? I still read books. Not everyone does. I see value in still reading hard copy books. And there are some of you guys inside of here that don't have the time or not willing to make the time. So guys, I challenge you guys to get out there and try a month of Audible. Guys, you have access to over 400,000 titles. You can exchange it anytime. Guys, and really what I want you guys to be thinking about is the compound effect with this, right? If you read or listen to one book a month, okay, over the next 12 months, say that book gets you 10% better or more knowledgeable or wiser around a specific skill set that you want to get better at, you're going to be 100% better at that craft or that skill set in the matter of 12 months if you implement the knowledge. Guys, that's where I want you to be thinking about. I want you to be thinking long-term, fulfilling deposits inside your head so you can get out there and constantly figure out how do you implement one new thing toward your desired end goal every single day, guys. It's a $15 a month membership. That's it. Cancel anytime. Guys, I charge you guys to click on the link inside the comments or the show notes below and go ahead and get started. Try it out for a month. Plus, you help out the episode and help us here at the Ambitious Vet community continue to provide value and figure out how we bring more value to your guys' ears, hands, however we can provide value to you guys. So guys, look at the show notes below. We're excited to have you start narrowing the time frame from getting to where you're at to where you want to go. So let's go ahead and introduce the guest. All right, Ambitious Vets. Today we got Jeffrey Lodick on the Ambitious Vet Show. So Jeffrey Lodick served 20 years inside the Army. He served as a squadron sergeant major, operations sergeant major, first sergeant, a platoon sergeant. He was a master rated jump master, a pathfinder, drill sergeant, and a graduate of the battle staff course. He served well over 20 years and retired in fall of 2017. Now, he started a podcast on the other side, Leadership After Transition, January of 2017, to assist service members as they made the transition into the civilian world. In April of 2017, he opened Change Your Forecast LLC as an organization that develops confident and effective communicators. He offers training to individuals and business professionals, but his main focus is creating after-school programs for at-risk youth in the Tampa, Florida area and beyond. Now, Jeffrey, as a professional speaker, he tells his story of overcoming overwhelming odds to be in the place he is today. From being a poor student, a troubled teen, and not so good soldier, to being diagnosed with cancer, which at some point he had to decide he needed to change his forecast. And he tells the story to give people the understanding that they too can decide what they want to do and then achieve it. He is extremely happily married with 4 children that range from 13 years old all the way to 1 month old. Ambitious Vets, I'm really excited to go ahead and provide this conversation with you guys that happened back in October of 2018, guys. His perspective and wisdom coming from a New Yorkan. No fluff, straight up, and unapologetic on how he identified his purpose, why he was in, his definition of leadership, and how to deal with when you take off the uniform, how to deal with your credibility going with it, guys. I think you guys are really going to get a lot out of this one, especially those of you that want to figure out how to be an effective, powerful communicator and also learn how to be that leader that you were inside the uniform. So I'm going to shut my mouth. Now it's time to dive into the trenches with Jeffrey Lodick. Jeffrey, are you there?
I am here. What's up, Chris? How you doing, man?
Hey, man. It's, like I just said, man, just living life, another day, just figuring out what life challenges are to overcome today, man. Good to have you on the show.
Hey, very thankful to be here, truly. Thank you.
Good, man. So go ahead and fill the gaps in that, man. Let us know a little bit outside of all those outstanding achievements and kind of what you're up to, and let us know a little bit about who you are as a person, man.
Man, first and foremost, I'm a father. That's my pride and joy. I love it, man. I'm a father of 4, so I have a daughter who's 13, son that's 12. I got a 3-year-old daughter, and I just had a baby about 2 months now, right?
Wow.
2 months ago.
Congrats.
Yeah, it's great. And then I have a wife who I love dearly, who supports me greatly. My mother and her mother live here. It's a house full of people, right? And it's great, man. It's just really enjoyable. So that's where I began, right? So everything else is kind of secondary. So my family's primary goal, right? But you talked, and I appreciate the intro. I love how you introduced me. As a matter of fact, I might hire you just for the introduction purpose.
Come on, man.
No, it's great. I had a great Army career, man. I grew up in Buffalo, and I had really no options. I was a very, very, very bad kid. I mean, I wasn't a gangster and I wasn't a criminal. I wasn't that, but I had zero ambition. So I'm almost to look at you say an ambitious vet, and then to have me talk about how ambitious I was not it's really interesting. The transformation, right? The maturation throughout my life. Joining the Army, I kind of did that solely to get away from what I was doing. I knew that I had to separate myself from what I was doing and where I was going. And the only option I had were, people like to say, you could be anything you want. it didn't really mean much to me. It wasn't a true story for me at that time. So the only way out was the Army. And, you know, through 20 years, 16 days, I got to tell you, the Army gave me the opportunity to be anything I wanted. I truly, walking out of the Army was an amazing feeling, because I truly, for the first time in my life, believed and understood that if I wanted to achieve it, I could, right?
Wow, that's awesome, man. I love that. I love how you got your Army days numbered 20 years and 16 days, huh, brother?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know you've heard it. I mean, people say it all the time. So if I do one day over 10, I'm going to do 20. And if I do one day over 20, I'll do 30. That was my mentality. And, you know, the 16 days comes because you can't retire on the 12th of August. You got to retire on the 1st of the month. Now, I'll tell you, like, I loved my military career, but I had that idea that if at 20 years, if I go another day, I'm going to stay till 30, right? Because I loved it. I mean, there's nothing, my worst day in the Army was somebody's best day of their life. And that's kind of crazy to think about, but it just is what it is, right? So understanding that I wanted to exit so I could influence, impact, and make changes, you know, it was something that was an easy decision for me to make, you know?
No, that's awesome. Wow. There's your first Golden Grenade emissions vets. Worst day in the Army was most people's best day of their whole life. That is amazing wisdom right there, because you think about it. Think about the resources, the non-taxes that you have to deal with when you're in the military and all that. So that's awesome that you took advantage of every day, it seems like, with all the roles that you took. So, I mean, before we kind of get into your transition story, because it's definitely a little bit different since you served for 20 and got out, you know, I really want to dive into, because I can definitely identify with your story a lot as far as being, you know, kind of a troubled teen, kind of joining the Marine Corps because, you know, I was coming from a broken home and was kind of seeking masculinity. You know, what did the Army teach you, and what had you spend 20 years in there? Because obviously being these major roles in leadership, you know, taught you a lot. So kind of what breeded out the Army?
So I would tell you, and now I'm very transparent. So if people don't like honesty, you might not like this, but here's facts for you. So at 4 years in the Army, I had an opportunity to exit, right? Like everybody else, I signed up for 4 years. Lack of planning caused me to re-enlist. So I didn't stay in the Army after 4 years because I loved the service. I hated it. I hated it because I was still a young soldier, right? And I was constantly getting, you know, smoked and doing PT and just doing the dumb stuff, right? But I hated it. But I knew that had I left, I didn't have credentials. I didn't have anything. I didn't change. Nothing changed in my life in those 4 years besides it was a 4-year vacation. I mean, I grew up a little bit, but I know that if I would have went home, I would have been right back to the same thing that I wanted to leave. So for lack of better planning, I re-enlisted, right? And then I spent some more time, and there was always those groups, right? That group of people are kind of looked at by leadership as the crap guys or the turds, and those guys were like the hard charging guys. Well, I always happened to be around because like-minded people, right? I was around a like-minded people because that's who I related to. Well, something my father used to say, even when I was a kid getting in trouble, he goes, if you want to be better than what you are, move your focus groups, move from the people you're with, go to somebody else. Well, after about 5.5 years, I decided, you know what? I'm done with the nonsense. I mean, I wasn't getting in trouble, but I just wasn't aspiring to be anything really. I was just kind of going with the flow. 1st and 15th, I'd go to buy shoes, go out to the clubs, whatever it was, but that was my goal, right? Anyhow, you know, and I think that's a very common story, right?
Absolutely, man.
But at that time, I decided to kind of start hanging out with the people I didn't relate to so much, kind of understood, wow, these guys are really smart. We've been in the Army equal time, but they're really doing stuff, right? So I started hanging around with them, and I got selected to be a drill sergeant. And that's, well, let me time out for that for a second, because shortly before I became a drill sergeant, I got diagnosed with cancer, right? So I was in Korea, got diagnosed with testicular cancer. It was actually interesting. I went in for something completely different because I had a hernia, had the operation. I busted out the mesh because I was back in the gym too soon. So they had to reoperate. But when they were reoperating, they found a lump on my right testicle. So that was at about 3:30 in the afternoon. 4 o'clock, I had my, they told me that I had this lump and I had to have surgery again the next day. So I had surgery the next morning to remove the testicle, told me I had cancer. A month later, I was in Hawaii undergoing radiation treatment. but that was really deflating for me as a human being, right? I was 22 years old. I was in Korea. I had no family over there. And you know, in the Army, it was the organization I was in at the time wasn't really a tight knit family in that sense. So I was kind of out on an island by myself. So I got to go to Hawaii. My mother and my father came to Hawaii and spent some time with me, but it really made me kind of open my eyes. And that's actually what made me go and start looking at the other groups of folks. I mean, once I got past the radiation, I went from 215 pounds in the gym all the time to 150 pounds in less than 10 days. It was really rough. I was allergic to a lot of the medication. So at the end of the day, I was struggling to live, right? I mean, I wasn't about to die by any stretch of the imagination. Don't get me wrong, but I just felt, I looked at myself. I wouldn't look in a mirror for a year and a half or so because I just didn't look like the same human. But I started to kind of be more attracted to the people that were doing. I knew that there was a purpose for me, right? Didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew there was a purpose. So anyhow, a little while longer after that, I got selected to be a drill sergeant, and that's where I found life. I mean, truly, that's where I tell anybody, life. Yeah. When I had the opportunity to train soldiers, right? I looked at people that came there. I mean, we're in the middle of combat. It's 2004 time frame. I mean, they're signing up, even though we're in conflict. And that's a true, it's an amazing thing, right? Anyway, but you have people that want to make a difference, and you are there to help them do that. That's what your sole goal is. So there's a lot of folks that don't like being drill sergeants. It's very time consuming. It's hard. There's a lot of bureaucracy and politics involved with it. But when you look and peel back the onion, you are training America's warriors. But more importantly, you're training a man and a woman. You're trying to make them better because they want to be. So what I realized is that is my goal for the rest of my career. From that point on, I kid you not, 2005, I think it was September 3rd or 4th. I made it my goal to serve the men and women in the uniform of the Army. And then I was in a lot of joint organizations. So obviously I had sailors, airmen, Marines, as well as soldiers. And it was my passion. And I still love doing it. That's why I continue to do what I do, you know?
That's awesome, man. What was your biggest challenge in training recruits and stuff like that? Because a lot of these are like kids, man, just getting out of high school and stuff like that. What was your biggest challenge in developing leadership in the Army?
You know, leadership in the Army is interesting. I think that we're just there. You have great leaders, you have poor leaders, right? That's just the way it is. I mean, the difference is in the military, there's a structure in which forces people to follow, right? So the idea is you want people to have buy-in, you want people to want to follow you, right? So the hardest thing one of the hardest things was to train. They wanted to be there. So it was easy for those, but there was folks that just had to be there. And what I mean by had to be there, they volunteered, of course, but they weren't there for the right reasons. If they had no other options, they maybe wanted school money. They didn't want to be soldiers. They just wanted the dollars that they get for school, or they wanted to get away from home, or mom and dad were not, they weren't there for the right reasons. And that's difficult because they say you spend 90% of your time with 10% soldiers, which are the bad ones, right? Because those ones you have to work with to get them better, when in all actuality, those other 90%, you want to do everything for them because they're just amazing people that you want to inspire. So it was tough because you have to deal with the ones that really don't need to be there, right? Because not every veteran needs to be called a veteran, right? But they are because of it's a title you earn, right? But
that's funny. That's great. I love how you put that, man. 100%. And it's funny. I was just sharing with a colleague at work today around how, like, I'll never be someone that wears United States Marine veteran hat, because I feel like that's you living in the past, living in kind of your glory days versus kind of having your best days forward. I think there's always a lot of skill sets that you learn from the military, right? Self-discipline, leadership, strategic leadership, stuff like that, that will kind of just show people who you are. And then they'll ask, where did you establish all this discipline,
right?
Leadership, stuff like that. Well, that's when you promote who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. When I see people wearing different types of paraphernalia, whatever it may be, I find that a lot of them want the conversation. And I look at the older guys, the World War II vets or the Vietnam vets, and I see them wearing it. And you know what, to be honest with you, and maybe it's corny, I talk a lot. I love to talk. It's probably a passion. If I could get just paid to talk randomly to random people, it'd be great. But I'll stop in the mall, I'll stop in the store, and I'll just say thanks for the service and tell me your story, you know, because well, look, everybody's got a story, man, and some people just don't know how to tell it good. But at the end of the day, sometimes they just want to be heard. So I won't wear it, not because, I just don't look at myself as that guy yet. Maybe in my older days when I'm hanging out at the American Legion or the VFW, because I don't want to say time has passed me by, but I'm on those, that last leg or whatever it may be, where I'm just ready to kick back and just talk to the young Marine about my time and what it was like. It's just a different time. So it's just good for conversation, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I love you guys from New York, man. You guys are fast talkers, but you drop like dimes. You drop like golden grenades in the middle of your transition statements and all that, man. You said like everyone has a great story, just not everyone's great at telling it. Mm-hmm. And that I caught that. And I want everyone to know that, Jeffrey right here, what he does is he trains people on how to be effective communicators, being confident in their communicators, in their communication. I know that was one of my biggest challenges for the first 12 months, man. That's why I got into sales, to learn how to be an effective communicator. Right. Yeah. So, tell me about now the transition out of the Army. You obviously found your passion, your purpose while you served. You bought into Uncle Sam's purpose of serving America Army, did your 20, you're out now. Tell us about that transitional story and kind of how you utilize your passion and monetized it.
Well, I'll tell you, it's really interesting, man. So I would tell you that not all stories are the same, right? So I get to talk to transitioning veterans every day, which is great. It's a really good thing. But mine was a little different. I intentionally left, so I intentionally had a plan, right? So that's a little different, right? So a lot of folks they leave because they hate it and they don't really know what they're going to do. They leave because they're forced out, because whether it's because of disciplinary issues, because of cutbacks, or whatever the case may be, and they're on a short timeline to get out, and there's just a lot of differences. So mine was very intentional. So I knew that I wanted to influence people. I wanted to impact people. I wanted to change lives. I wanted to be there to assist in any way I could. And I focused on that. Now, I made a lot of mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we can talk about those here shortly, but I made plenty of mistakes. Even to this day, I'm making mistakes because I'm not a businessman. I mean, I'm just not. So initially I was a little naive, if you will. I mean, a little. So credibility, when I'd go, I did speeches at graduations. I did speeches at retirement ceremonies. I did speeches for things. I mean, it's just what we did, right? I could walk in with my uniform and I'm credible. Well, when the uniform came off, credibility went with it. And I had a place where I was going. I mean, I knew where I wanted to speak at. And I'd go in, I'd have these conversations. The doors were open for me a little bit, not too open, but open enough. And I'd have these conversations, eyes wide open, about what I could bring to this organization, or what I could bring to this group or this school or this team or whatever it may be. But when it came down to sell, to get them to sign a contract, it was no. It was I wasn't talking to the right guy. I can't pay you, or he's not available, or they're just not interested in paying money, right? And as I'm having all these conversations, I'm kind of getting frustrated. Well, this is happening while I'm on terminal leave, right? So at that moment in time, you heard I got a family, right? So I got the 3 kids at the time. My 1-year-old or 2-month-old wasn't born yet, but I still have a large household. I got two mothers, mine and my wife's, my wife, and then my 3 kids, and I still have to have some sort of income. So as my transition leave starts to come to an end, I'm not getting concerned because I'm okay. I know we're going to be fine. But I'm wondering, from a business perspective, why am I not able to close the deal? What do I need? So I guess naturally in my progression to wanting to be where I'm at, I got to learn how to sell, right? And to me, one of the easiest places to learn how to sell, if you have never sold before, is to go to a car dealership or being a house real estate person. So I just went to the local Ford dealership and I said, hey, listen, I'm retiring next week officially. I'd really like to sell cars and learn the process and all that stuff. And well, I was given an opportunity. So it was good because now there's no breaking money, right? Because car sales can be very lucrative. But there's a significant problem with that. I'm working 80 hours a week now as a car salesman, and 80 hours a week is not conducive to, 1, influencing people that I want to, and 2, spending time with the most significant priority in my life, which is my family. So I'm struggling with the time management because I don't have any, right? I mean, I have 1 day off a week, and it was just an odd day.
Crazy hours as a car salesman.
And more importantly, people, right? You have to deal with people. So I can talk to you today, but you don't want to come back till tomorrow, but that's my 1 day off. And if I want to sell your car, I got to be there so that my 1 day off becomes a full day of work because people, right? Anyhow, I learned how to sell. And what I did know, what I'd learned was I knew how to sell all along. I just did not understand how I was learning. I mean, how I was supposed to be selling. You understand what I mean? So people are coming in to buy a vehicle. Now, in 2018, you don't need to come to a dealership to find a vehicle. You're online looking for a vehicle. You're going to USAA to get the vehicle deal, whatever the case would be. They want to be sold the vehicle by somebody. I'm a middleman. That's it, right? The salesman is the middleman, the managers and all that stuff. I just get you in the car, give you a test drive, and convince you that you should buy it from me. Well, what I realized is people were buying them from me. A lot of people were buying them from me. And it was not because I served in the Army. It wasn't because I held these positions. It wasn't because of any other reason, but I was genuine. And I was just a genuine man. I believe in myself. I'm confident in who I am. I stand by my values. I don't compromise my integrity for anybody. And because people could see that through the process, look, I would tell you, hey, this car you could probably get it for about $10,000 cheaper, but I'm not going to sell it to you $10,000 cheaper because that's my income, right? Not the $10,000. But there's someone's got to, you're never going to beat a dealership, right? It's just not, otherwise they'd be out of business. But those are the things that I learned. And from there, man, I've just started doing more. And I became a member of the National Speakers Association. I got around the business side of speaking because truly, if you want to speak, that's the fun part. That's not the business part, though. That's what people don't understand. Like you put me on a stage, let's have a good time, man. I'm out here. I'll motivate everybody. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But that's not the business part. And the business part is what even now I struggle with. So I'm surrounding myself with people who are knowledgeable, who know, and who can help me and guide me. And I read books now where I didn't used to like to read. I mean, I download audiobooks, I read actual books because I want to be smarter than just trying to figure it out, because I'll just keep banging my head against the wall, right? So that's kind of my story, man. And that's why I'm still here. You would not want to put me on a stage to tell someone how to have a successful business today. Now, I'm going to be there. Just like when I was a private, I'm a private right now, man. And here's the deal. Yeah. I'll make it to where I want to go. I'll be a sergeant major. I'll be where I want to be. But the fact is I got to start here. You know what I mean?
Right. Bro, there's so much value in what you just said. So many golden grenades, so much wisdom. And guys, he sells himself short like most New Yorkans that are never quite where they want to be. This guy's a big deal. A lot of people are coming up, shaking his hand in Orlando. He came up to our booth and, he touch, moves, and inspires everyone he comes across. So he's a lot more successful business guy than what you guys are hearing come out of his mouth. And I'll endorse you, brother. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
One thing I want to point out with what you just said, brother, is that, I think the reason why you started discovering what your weaknesses were as you decided that you want to be a successful businessman is you just went out and took massive action. You just were an executor, man. You're moving.
Yeah.
And as you took action, you started seeing things. I call it the feedback loop, but you kind of put a shit ton of input in, came back, saw everything that came back to you, and you're like, okay, I'm not getting deals. I'm not necessarily where I want to be. Where do I need to shift? Right. And I love how self-aware you were and how, most military would call it pivoting, strategizing, assessing, and pivoting, right? And being like, hey, okay, I got to go incubate these skill sets real quick, develop those, sales techniques. Okay, I actually can sell some shit. Let's go out and actually start requesting money from people. And I think that's kind of, where you're at right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You said requesting money from people. I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs in the business and in the military realm struggle and that's a very generalized statement too. So all you entrepreneurs out there, don't say, I never had problems asking. I'm saying for the people I've spoke to, it's the ask, right? How to ask for a dollar amount, especially as a speaker, you want to ask for what is the baseline? I mean, where do you start? If this guy's getting paid $5,000, a gig, well, do you feel like your value is $5,000, or is someone going to say you should probably do it for 100? Are you going to undersell yourself, or are you going to oversell? What is that point, right? So it's just interesting to then ask for the dollar. It's like, hey, I would love to speak for you, but I would also love for you to give me money because I'm trying to sustain my family, and do those things. So it's interesting.
And that's the battle. That's the battle of what do you price at the beginning when you don't necessarily have social proof, getting that, and also creating monetization and stuff like that. That's the challenge of building a brand that impacts 100%. Yeah. So I want to give some shout outs, man. We got a lot of people live with us, man. We got Maggie Felix, my better half, Emmanuel Jocks, my best friend served in the Marine Corps. Rob, brother, thanks for joining us. Got Juan Sandoval, James Van Pruin. Guy's been everywhere right now. I know he was just in Texas. Yeah, man. He's live with us. Thanks for joining us live. We got April Mosier live with us. We got Greg Buddha live with us. So, guys, thank you for joining us live. If you guys have any questions or you're hearing Golden Grenades, go ahead and comment below. Emmanuel Jocks put like 3 laughing faces just now. I think you cracked him up with some of your New York and jargon, man.
Yeah, right. It happens. I laugh at myself when I see myself talk too, believe me.
Yeah, but it's cool, man, because your words are becoming are land impactful. And I'm sure it took a long time to actually develop that skill set. So I want to kind of transition into, obviously now you're teaching people how to be effective communicators, impactful communicators. What kind of manifested this, and what made this come about?
So I really, to be honest with you, so I really talk about using communication to build confidence, right? I mean, so when I see people, I can see some through the time I was in the military, I saw some really great people. I got to meet some really great people, and I had made mention earlier, everybody's got a story, just some aren't good at telling it, right? And that's kind of, I want to bring that out of people. So by talking, by telling your story, by just speaking, standing a certain way, looking at people a certain way. I mean, there's a whole bunch of tips about look over someone's head or about all those crazy things that really don't work, because if you're talking to me and we're in person, I can tell that you're looking at my head. So it doesn't work, because I want to make eye contact, because here's the deal, Chris, to be honest with you, when I look at you in the eye and I tell you something, and if I'm truthful and genuine and I mean it, when I look at you, you know it, you feel it. And I'm going to tell you, I can see that you get it. I can look at your eyes, and they talk about the twinkle. It's there because you see it and you can feel it. And that's what I do. So some of those things are it's because I got to see it happen in real life. I mean, VP is on watching live right now. And VP had a front row seat with me and during my career for a portion of it. And if you were to ask him, when I walked into a room, it didn't matter what was happening in the room. And it didn't matter if I was a senior person or not. When I walked into the room, it changed. The room changed and the people changed. And when I spoke, and it's not because I'm full of wisdom, I appreciate you telling me that. It's because I'm full of passion and belief. And when I speak, I mean it. I mean, there's unequivocally, man, I mean what I say. If I tell you something, that's what I mean, and I'm not going to change. I won't flip flop on you and say, well, maybe no. This is what and who I am. So that's what I do. So when I have the opportunity to have someone that is in the shadows, that they want to come out, they want to be part of the conversation, but they're scared. So how do we eliminate that fear? How do we get people comfortable? And that's kind of some of the exercises I go through, and I try to give them a comfortable place. And, I tell people all the time, VP got me into Toastmasters. I think Toastmasters is a great organization. I think I would tell anybody that ever wants to speak, go there anyway, even if it's not to do the contestant stuff and become a speech competitor. Yeah, get out there and get comfortable with talking to people. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's truly what I want to do. Building confidence by speaking.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I think eye contact is a big deal, but some people, they deal with shit in life, kind of like, you before you join the Army and stuff like that. And me and a lot of people that are watching this live, and it's not necessarily always so easy to keep eye contact with people. So I'm sure you probably dive into that and help them deal with those mental barriers or whatever it is to keep that eye contact, because there's insecurities, all kinds of stuff that comes up, man, around holding yourself powerfully. But one thing that I think you failed to mention that I really picked up on you at the Military Influencer Conference, and even right now, is you're super authentic, brother. Yeah. And I think authenticity and just realness, like people can identify with you a hell of a lot quicker. And once people identify with you, they buy in.
Right. I agree. And that's again, sometimes it's a good thing, right? So being authentic is good, right? And I just think certain circles, you rub some people the wrong way, because again, I'll offer my opinion if I'm very comfortable around places, and it's an opinion based on some type of factual backing, right? But I also have been known to say things that probably aren't the most appropriate and probably an inappropriate time. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm speaking what I believe to be true. And, I go to bat for people when I should. In my opinion, I should. And sometimes in other people's opinion, I shouldn't. But that's what I do. And that's what I love to do. But, you made something very clear, and it brought something back in my mind when I was a drill sergeant. That's kind of we wear so many hats in the military. So I was a communicator, and I was a radio operator. So let me not say communicator, because as we move forward, after radios became kind of obsolete, they're still used, but you have all kind of computer-based stuff. Well, I'm not a computer guy. I don't do computers, right? So anyhow, when I was a drill sergeant, you become so much more. So we talk about being a leader. We talk about being a mentor, coach. We talk about, being a psychologist that isn't paid to be a psychologist, a counselor who's not paid. But I say that because there were a lot of times, because I'm a people reader, I read people. That's what I love to do, because I ask questions that most people wouldn't ask, because I want to know you. I don't care about all the other stuff. If I know you, I know if we can do business or not. I know if we can be friends or not, if I know you. Now, if I know the that little alter ego that you put out in there and in front of people, because people do that all the time, and it's okay. Yeah. But I want to break that down, when I was a drill sergeant, I had a lot of those things, very insecure men who were beaten by their fathers, females that were sexually abused or sexually assaulted. And you could start seeing these things, and that's where compassion and kind of empathy, you gotta kind of, that you develop that, right? And you kind of build into that soldier, that person, and that human, and you invest in them. And it's an amazing thing over an 8 week. And that's kind of where I told you I found my passions, because of people like them that I was able to get buy-in, that I was able to get trust, and I was able to see them grow in 8 weeks, man, to watch someone transform psychologically, physically, just the way they stood, the way they talked, how proud they were of themselves, the confidence that they gained. And really, I had a role in it. I wasn't the one, but I had a role. And for me, that just set it off for my future, man. That's where it was right then. I mean, I promise you, I can remember the day.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, man. This just became a rated R podcast. Really, man, your passion lights everyone up. I think everyone could agree is listening to this right now. It's just amazing. Greg Buddha says, you and Chris have a nice natural flow when you communicate. I feel like when I speak online, I'm thinking 4 to 5 thoughts, sentences ahead of myself, causing me to get a little lost in thought. Any tricks to get around that?
Yeah, focus. I mean, here's what I had a commander who told me something once. So this female commander I had, I love her to death. I think she's probably one of the best people I've ever got to serve with. Every time she would talk, she'd be talking to me, and I'd be trying to interrupt her because I'm trying to go and say something because of what she stopped, and she looked at me and she said, if you're trying to speak while I'm speaking, you're not listening to what I'm saying. So in my mind, I've already predetermined what it was that I believe and how we should go forward. What she's saying is, stop for a minute. Let me talk, absorb what I'm saying. And then if you're so inclined to have that argument with me, then please do, but at least give it a chance. So you shouldn't really have to think too much ahead, because what are you being reactive or are you being proactive? What is the conversation? If you're in control of the conversation, well, then it's okay to think ahead, but if you're thinking so far ahead, are you really concerned with what the other person's saying? So that's kind of what you got to think about is it a dialogue? Are we going back and forth with each other? Or am I going to get all my points out so Chris can't talk, and no matter what he says, I'm going to continue with the way ahead? It's not like, it really is. It's just about, what do you want from the conversation? Because if I want something from Chris, I'm going to pause and let him talk and go for the next thing after he says it, right?
That's awesome. No, I think it comes back to confidence as well. And Greg, if that answers your question, let us know. I mean, for me, before I go any Facebook Live, I first have an intention behind what I'm going to say, and I bring 3 bullet points on what I'm going to touch on. And I always think about the why behind those 3 bullet points. And then I have a story that I could tie into those 3 points. I always have intentionality before I go live, do anything online. And then I'll, whatever the intent, the topic is, I'll always ask myself, what's the importance of the topic? So I'm connected emotionally, because when I'm connected to what I'm talking about in my live emotionally, then that's what ignites the passion. But I think it comes back down to, what Jeff is saying here is it comes down to confidence and just knowing that all you got to do is walk through the door and the right words will come out of your mouth. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is, what is the stage that's set for you? I mean, are you walking into something where you're going to get by people you have no idea any question? I mean, so I'm confident in who I am, but I can tell you that there's a lot of times that I'm the dumbest person in the room, in which I do that intentionally because I want to learn. Right. So when people are you start talking politics with me and you say things like bipartisanship, I'm going to be like, listen, you lost me, guy. You know, I'm not a political guy. I don't have the bandwidth nor the desire to really get into it. But now you start talking baseball, or you start talking leadership, or if you start speaking my language, let's go. We can go back and forth for hours.
Love it, man. I love your passion. Greg Buddha says those are a couple of good golden grenades, intention and confidence. Thanks, lads. Look out for my next Facebook Live. Man, big shout out to Craig Buddha, man. He owns a jewelry company. I think, isn't it in, I want to say, oh man, I'm blanking it right now. Greg Buddha, post a link in the comments below of your Jewelry Republic company, because he's blowing it up. He makes jewelry for veterans. And I'm excited to go ahead and buy a custom made ring for my girl whenever we're ready to nestle up. So
right. It's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, brother, I mean, you've led some of the top leadership roles in the military: quadrant sergeant major, first sergeant, platoon sergeant, drill sergeant, all this, man. I think a lot of us, what we want to ask right now is, what does leadership mean to you?
Inspiration, man. Like I used to ask this on the board. I've sat on so many promotion boards and Soldier of the Month and Soldier of the Quarter and all these different boards. And I'd always ask, it was out of script, and I'd ask the people, because I don't want the book answer. So in the Army, when I went to the board, when I was in E5, the USA, what is leadership? And it's the process of influencing soldiers to accomplish the mission by providing purpose, direction, and motivation. Verbatim by the book. That's what it was. Now, that's good. The fact that I can remember that years later, awesome. But what does it mean? And see, everybody can read that and have a different interpretation of it. So I would always ask from the soldier that's going to tell me that same exact thing I just said to you. I don't want the book answer. Tell me what it means. So to me, leadership means inspiration, inspiring. You cannot inspire wrong. I mean, it's just that's not what inspire means. I mean, you can motivate, there's a guy named JC Glick, which I interviewed, and he and I spoke in length of this because we both feel the same way. I mean, it's almost as if we served together. I never met him a day in my life, but on the show, I interviewed him. And we had already talked about it, but that's a fact. I mean, inspiration, get someone to come and to be where you're at and do it selflessly, man. It's like people are always concerned about a junior guy getting to the same rank as me. Like, I can't do that because I'm failing. No, you're succeeding. If you bring the people to where you're at, you're succeeding now, because you have no control of going up. You don't control where you're going. You try your hardest, and someone's decision is there. But if you can inspire someone to be you, if you can inspire someone to be better than they could ever have imagined being, man, you've led. You are a true leader, period. You know what I mean? There's a million other definitions, a million other words, but to me, one word sums it up, and that'll always be my answer when asked, and it's being inspirational.
That's awesome, brother. I mean, it's really a counterintuitive approach, but some of the counterintuitiveness is some of the best advice. I love that shit. So, man, ladies and gentlemen, this is the host of On the Other Side, Leadership After Transition. That's why I asked you that question, man. So tell us about this podcast, why you started it, and where people can find it.
So similar story to yours, right? So James Van Pruin and I, again, we were walking. He asked me, we were talking. I mean, he is a genius, man. He's just a smart guy. And I'll tell you, anybody that knows him wouldn't call him a genius. I call him a genius because we've had hours and hours and hours of conversation. When I decided to leave the military, he had asked me, listen, I don't care what we do, but we got to do something together. And he was creating the Veterans Podcast Network. Right. And it was great, man. I mean, it was just something that was a good idea. I didn't even know what a podcast was. Like, that's how dumb I was. I was like, okay, whatever. I had no use for it. So he started talking to me about a podcast thing, and I was like, okay, that's cool. What's the cost? What do we need to do? I mean, he just started talking. So he asked me, okay. And I said, okay, I'm in, I'll do it. I said, I got to figure out what I'm going to talk about. So the next day I said leadership. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, leadership. I'm very a firm believer in, and we need to inspire people to be better leaders. And just because you're in the military doesn't mean you're a great leader. There are great leaders in the military. There's horrible ones too. But I want to talk about how do you take that leadership from in and transition it and transfer it to out. So I'll go out there and find leaders that used to be leaders in any branch of service and have interviews. And, I mean, I've kind of evolved since the start of it, but a lot of it comes from just the desire to have someone to mentor me on my way exit out of the military of what do I have to bring to the other side, right? That what can I transfer from what I know to be the military into the world in which I have not lived in, 20 years and on a regular basis. And oh, by the way, the life I lived before I came in, I wasn't an adult. I was a child. I mean, I was a teenager. I lived at home. I didn't have to pay bills. There was no responsibilities, and I had a job. And if I got paid $115, it was cool. I could go buy beer at the store, even though I was underage, but we could go to the back door and all that stuff, and they'd give it to whatever case may be, but there was no real responsibility. So life that happened before wasn't an adult life. So now how am I going to use it to transition? So I figured this would be a great thing to do. One, I could share with people as I'm getting advice. People are getting advice too. It's just a sharing thing. And I continue to do it. That's why I don't try to monetize it. I try to bring on as many people. I will share your show and everything in my group just so you get more exposure. But more importantly than your exposure is the fact that what you're talking about is similar, but different. And the people that are going to give information to you aren't always going to be my guests. And we're going to have a lot of differences, but it's information sharing. We're getting smarter, and we're providing a service that I think is needed significantly. So that's how the podcast started. And man, I got to tell you, I love it. I've met people like you. I've got to meet Dan Dwyer, all the folks and the people that Sean Douglas. I listened to you, Sean and Dan talk the other evening. It's just, these are the folks that I've met, and it's really been, where are you at right now? San Diego, right?
Yep.
I'm in Tampa, Florida. We met in Orlando. I got to see some people in San Antonio. I've been across the states, and I've got to see people that that have heard of my podcast, which I didn't even know they did. I've got to hear of people's podcasts, but I've heard their names, but now I get to shake their hands. And man, it's just opened up so many opportunities, and more importantly, just created a lot of friendships that, can never have too many friends, right? That's the way I look at it.
No, absolutely. Greg Buda just made a good point in the comments. He said, so many veterans go back to that pre-service life, then fail to launch.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
And it's a huge point, but there's problems with that. Right. But to me, I think it's obvious problems, but think about this. And I would just say, how many years did you serve?
4 and out, man.
Okay. And 4 and out is good. By the way, I just want to say this. I always hear people say, because they compare it to the time in which somebody else serves, they say, well, I only did 4. You did 4 years, man. You know what I mean? So it's great. Yeah. So make sure that you're proud of that time and be good. But here's the thing, right? He's exactly right. Spot on. You come into the military, you left mom and dad or whatever. You came in, you got a barracks, you got a meal card. Yes, you might have had some bills because you got a cell phone, but a lot of people didn't even have an apartment. A lot of people didn't have a mortgage. A lot of people didn't have children. A lot of people didn't have a lot of those things. And then you come into the military where you're still, I don't want to say spoiled, but you're still taken care of. There is no independence. There's a little, and we call it freedom, but it's not. Just because we're not in mom and dad's house anymore, we're still somewhere where we're taken care of. And then you send me out, or I leave, or because I hate it, or whatever the reasoning is. There's a million reasons, and it's again a generalized statement. We get out, and then the expectation, we forget that, oh yeah, I can't go back to mom and dad's, or I can go to mom's house or Uncle Jimmy or whoever it is. Yeah. But how long am I going to want to stay at an adult's house? I've been free, in a sense. I've been free for 4 years. Why do I want to go back and live the life I did? And then we find ourselves, by the way, I've gone to 6. So I said 6 with only 5, but 6 homeless shelters for veterans. I've talked to a bunch of them. Not one officer have I found, and majority have served for less than 5 years that are in these places. And I'm telling you, to me, it's a catastrophe. It's horrible to see. But to me, I think that's what Greg said was spot on. That is the problem. Is that what do you do now? It's hard to go back to that, because you're grown in your mind. But how grown are we? What have we learned in that time frame? That's why, again, for lack of better options, I re-enlisted to stay, and it wasn't. It's the best choice ever made. But again, it's just what happened. I knew that if I got out, I'd be back doing the same crap I was doing before, which wasn't getting me anywhere. And I was able to recognize that,
That's awesome. That's smart. That's street smarts 101 right there. Right. And I think it goes back to your point, and just like taking off the uniform, the credibility goes with it. I think a lot of us forget that, we did develop soft skills while we served, and we're not really aware of that. So that's why there's people like you that remind veterans of how great they are and how much of a level of impactors they are and the leadership skills that they have, so they can get out, communicate their value, and create more opportunity.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and, you know, it's people like it might be me that reminds you, but it's people like you that remind me. I mean, see, I'll tell you, my interest in you is there's a few people, and I compare you guys often when I have conversations, because I do speak to a lot of people like VP and other folks, but you have the passion, and it's great to see what you do. I love listening to you talk, and I like listening to who you bring on, and I like where you're going with it. Just the little bit of time I've got to actually spend with you, right, in Orlando, I was able to see you interact with people. I see you're a genuinely good man. You're trying to do the thing, and that's who I want to see. I'm aspiring to be people like you. You know what I mean? It's just I have my own way of doing things, and I've grown up in this world and the experiences I've had. But I'm still the same person. But when I see people like you, man, I'm inspired, because I'm like, that is awesome. I mean, it just really that's impactful, because, well, one, if you're doing it, I can do it. That's the way I look at it. And it's competition friendly, not, well, I don't want this guy, but I see you doing it. I have to feed off your energy, because, hey, if I don't, he's going to be on top. So I have to feed off that. And it's just a competition, but friendly, to keep us both going up in the same, because we want to get to the top, man. And that's the way to do it. Friendly competition.
Yeah, I love that, man. And thank you for all those compliments, man, because, you know, it means the world to me, because it validates what we're doing here as a tribe, and, you know, our end goal and what our vision is. So I really appreciate that. And I think how we identify so much with each other is because we've had both such like messy childhoods, screwed up past, and we're both hustlers. And I think a lot, you know, hustlers and people that have dealt with a lot of crazy shit in life, they can pick up on people that have weight to their words, right? And people that have failed a lot. So, brother, I'm going to just give one, because we're getting some engagement. I'm going to offer and throw one more question at you, and then we're going to give them a call to action to come connect with you, because people are loving what you're saying, man. Emmanuel Jocks says that, how can an individual bring back that daily passion into their life after getting stuck in routine?
So, the other day, and this is like, you know, comedians say like yesterday, and it really wasn't, they made it up. It was probably like 6 years ago, something happened. But here's the no joke. Last week I was actually at work, and I was having, because I do some contracting work as well. So I have multiple streams, right? But here's the deal. I was at work, and this gentleman had said, I said, how you doing? He goes, another day done. And I said, okay. and it was very, I mean, that's the end of the conversation. But I looked at him, and, you know, another day done to what? Like, what are you counting down to? You know, and that's the way I looked at him. And I didn't say that out to him, but I thought to myself, it will never be me. So how do you bring it? Well, it's a behavior. It's a choice. You choose. And that's what change your forecast is about. It's not change my forecast. It's change your forecast. And only you can do it. So empower yourself, man. Wake up. And truly, the only thing you don't have a choice in life is waking up. Someone, whether you believe in God or whatever other power, you don't have that choice. You wake up because it's your time to wake up. And then everything that happens from that moment on, you choose to do. You can choose to be pissed off because a guy didn't say thank you for opening, or when you held the door open, or you could just go on your way. You can be mad because someone cut you off in traffic. You can be aggravated because there's a million things you can be aggravated about. But what can you be happy about? What are you looking forward to today? What is your thing? And to me, routines happen because you allow them. You choose what your routine is. If you want to change your routine, get yourself a schedule or a calendar or whatever it is. Pencil in time. It doesn't matter what it is. Look at it and then live by it. Create your routine. Scientifically, studies, they say 21 days creates a habit, blah, blah, blah. That's not real specifically, but the concept is, if you do something for a period of time consecutively, you develop a habit. Well, develop a new routine in which you choose what that routine is. And I mean, that's just the way I would say, just choose to. And some things aren't so easy. And I get it. That sounds simple. And if it was that simple, everybody would do it. But it is actually that easy. Choose what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I know E-Man personally. I served with him in Japan, and you know, he spent 5 years in the financial world in a network marketing company. I'm not going to mention the name, but he's done a huge transition, moved to North Carolina, getting into real estate investing, and he's trying to get back traction in life. So, E-Man, I hope that helps you out, brother. I'm excited to hear what you utilize with that wisdom. Jeff, man, where can people go and find your podcast, kind of what you're doing with Change Your Forecast LLC? Where can ambitious vets go and find you, man?
So the best place to find me, my favorite place is LinkedIn, right? So if you look up Jeffrey Lodick, anywhere, you're going to find me. On the Other Side, Leadership After Transition has a Facebook page, has a Facebook group. Go there. You can go to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, all the podcast players. They're all there. But truly, I believe in LinkedIn. I believe in that being a network place. Facebook's for friends. If you want to be my friend, by all means, reach out. I'll be your friend. But more importantly, if you want to have some type of professional networking ability, find me on LinkedIn. Every single person that I connect with on LinkedIn, I schedule a 15-minute phone call with. I want to talk to you. If you don't want to talk, we probably aren't going to be much friends on, network connections. I'll probably delete it because I believe in the network. I want a productive network on LinkedIn. So if I have 50 people or if I have 1,000 people, I'm going to talk to every single one of those, because what value do we bring by being a number? And it's zero. There's no value to me, and there's no value to you. I want to be productive for you, and you could be productive for me, but we have to build some type of relationship. So LinkedIn, reach out, let's talk and figure out what I can do to help, or where you may fit in the grand scheme of things for me. But I'm here truly to serve. So whatever I can do.
That's awesome, brother. I love it. Love it. Love it. So guys, I met him in Orlando. We've kind of touched base online and stuff like that before then. And I can tell you firsthand, Jeffrey Lodick is the real deal. He's a guy that attracts. It's funny because like when he walked by our booth, like he just attracts people to him kind of indirectly. And if you guys are wanting to have that magnetism as far as leadership style, have people just attract to you. Jeffrey's one of the best guys that I've been able to see as far as creating that charisma, that communication that just naturally pulls greatness out of people. He's the guy. So, brother, before I go ahead and let you go, I want you to drop in 2-3 golden grenades that could make immediate impact for any ambitious vet out there that's looking to develop their leadership skills out of the uniform.
Well, I think you've almost talked about all of them throughout this conversation, but I would tell you number one is being genuine, right? I mean, believe in yourself, believe in what you do, right? And because if you don't, you can't fake it forever. What they say, fake it till you make it. People do that, and then eventually they fall off. Be genuine, be true to you, right? And understand, don't compromise that for anybody. And that's very significant, because you'll see people weighing this way because somebody that's influential has them lean that way. But if that's not you, don't lean. Stay true to you, right? That's one thing I would say. Another thing I would tell you is be honest, integrity, right? I believe in integrity, and I tell you, dealing with me, transparency is huge. I will tell you how I feel. I will tell you exactly what I think. I mean, and I don't do it to be rude or condescending or ignorant. I do it so you know exactly what you're getting from me. Because if you're not saying something that I'm jiving with, I'm going to tell you so you don't continue to. And at least we can agree there that we can move somewhere else. But it's just a matter of being honest with yourself, honest with me, or anybody really. I think that they're in the veteran circles, especially lately anyway, as I'm seeing them and I'm part of these different groups and tribes and all these different places. There's a lot of stuff, right? Dramatic stuff. There's a lot of backstabbing here and talking about this here. I don't have time for that. So the last thing I would say, right, is positivity. Here's the deal with me. I don't have time for that. Look, like I said earlier in the thing, I got 4 kids, a wife, and 2 mothers, right? Or a mother and a mother-in-law that live in my house. So if you have some nonsensical stuff that you want to talk about, that's fine. I got a family. But if you want to talk about positive stuff, how you can impact the world, let's go. Let's make a change, and we can do it, and we can do it together. So positivity, I would say, just be positive, man. And people, listen, Chris, do me a favor. I want you to try this now, and I just want you to report back. It's like a homework assignment. I know you brought me on here, so I can give you a homework assignment. Go to the store, and I'm going to tell you, hold the door open for 5 people. I mean, count them and look them in the eye when they come to the door and say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, sir or ma'am.
Yeah.
I promise you, you will get a response. You'll get a reaction. Tell me what that reaction is. And then think about how you can put that in your life, because that is just holding a door and greeting somebody. Do it with other things. And I'm telling you, it will be reciprocated. You will get something in return, because all you have to do is be genuine, be positive, and honest, man. It just works out that way.
Yeah. In San Diego, I'll be famous if I do that because no one does that.
Well, there you go, man. Well, you got to be famous for something, right?
Come on now, man. Hey, door holder. Hey. So anyways, brother, brilliant golden grenades. Thank you for coming in here live with us, man. You blew it up as I already knew you would. Guys, I'm going to drop in all his links to his social media links in the comments below. Definitely connect with him. Friend him, start following this guy. As you can see, he's up to big things, has a great story. And like I tell every episode, that someone that has a great story like this is, you can tell a lot about an individual based on where they came from, their story and their upbringing and stuff like that. This guy has lived his brand, been in some of the top leadership roles in the Army. And guys, he has a leadership podcast. I'm going to post those comments in below. Definitely start following this guy. Jeff is an amazing leader. What he doesn't know, he goes and figures it out. And he's just, like he said, he's the real deal. He'll tell you how it is. Don't expect anything less from someone from Buffalo, New York. Brother, I just really appreciate you joining us live, man, and everything that you're doing and will do for the military community. I appreciate you.
Chris, I appreciate you. I'm really looking forward to the things that you bring to your community that you have right there, which I think is a great, as you're building it, I think it's amazing. And I'm really looking forward to the things that you accomplish, because you sell yourself short too. Like you had made mention earlier to me, you're going to be just fine. And I like where you're going. So you got my support. Is whatever I can do for you, I'm right here. Thank you for having me on the show, boss.
Well, there you have it, Ambitious Vets, episode number 37 of the Ambitious Vet Show with Jeffrey Lodick, guys. All of his links to his website, his podcast, all his social media links will be in the show notes below. Guys, before I let you go, okay, go and rate and review the podcast. Guys, we want to be bringing a top shelf of guests coming in the rest of 2019. And for that to happen, we've got to grow. We got to scale, but we also have to have validation that we're providing you value. So guys, if you get an ounce of golden grenades from this podcast, go and rate, go and review it, and you guys might just make it inside of the next episode. We'll see. But it depends on the review, and it depends on who takes action. It's always the person that takes action that always learns the most and always gets to the result faster than the people that hesitate. So guys, we already know that we're warrior made, but to become passion driven, guys, go out there and utilize just one golden grenade from this amazing conversation today. It may take 3 months, 6 months, maybe 6 years. Who cares, guys? But I promise you, if you take the small steps, build structures around you, build a fire team around you, you will realize that next mission. Now, guys, let's go